Well, good evening, or morning, I'm not sure which one it is. But anyway, by invitation only, I am here tonight to go over the Youth Scholarship Program again. And this would be for fiscal year 14, some policy changes. As you're aware, we've been through this a couple of different iterations. The Parks and Recreation Commission brought forth some recommendations for the fiscal year 13, the present policy, and the council's decision was to leave the policies as they are, and then to go back and come back with some recommendations on changes for fiscal year 14, which might include some kind of fiscal recovery or caps of some sort. So they did, and we brought those forward, and we've gone back and forth a few different times, and we're back again. And I do have all the previous information up here should you desire it, but if not, I'll just cut to the chase as to where we left off with the Administrative Committee last week. At that committee meeting, the Administrative Committee, their recommendations for the City Council to consider was adding a tagline to the Parks and Recreation registration website, and this is a solicitation point for donations. Maintain the present accounting practice of including both soft and hard costs, and this is no change to the present policy. Maintain present no residency restrictions policy, which is what we're already doing. Anybody can participate. Their fourth recommendation was a cap of the overall program expense at $18,000, and with that meaning that when the money is used up, that's the end of the program. At the end of that point, should somebody donate, then that we would come back to the commission for or the council for consideration to continue the program.
Dwight, it looks like you have a question.
Regarding item 4, the cap at 18,000, Dwight, I was not at the committee meeting, so I need a little help on that. The money for the youth scholarship program comes in two ways. One, the city budget, and two, donations.
This is all inclusive.
So how is the budget line item going to read for the youth scholarship program?
Well, good question. I don't know that we have everything exactly figured out, but we will have the 18,000. If this was passed, we would have 18,000 expense, 18,000 revenue, and we'll have to do our best. Still, we just haven't developed that yet, but it would include what we figure that we have a good chance of getting for grants or donations, and the rest would be general fund combination.
You realize that that is not answering my question. I don't, and I'm not being mean to be ugly about it, but
I don't know that I don't understand your question.
The question is, we have two sources of funds for the youth scholarship program: city budget and donations. If Gary, Don escaped, I don't know why, it's early yet.
Home polishing his awards.
I like that. If we just put in 18,000 without discriminating between donations and city funds, can it work? I mean, I don't understand the logistics, the mechanics, or the accounting of it.
If I may, Mayor.
Please.
Yeah, how the budget's developed is the department heads put together their estimates of expense and their estimates of revenues. Dwight, I think what Dwight was saying is he will go back, meet with Eric, Greg, determine what they believe, based upon their experience, that they think they can glean in donations. And last year, as I
And
think.
the balance would be city
The balance will
funds?
be supported with general funds, would be the proposal, and then it's up to the.
And that would be, if I may, and that would be enumerated in the budget.
Precisely.
Thank you, Dwight.
I thought that's what I said.
Right, and I thought it was too, Dwight. I mean, regardless, the general fund is obligated to come up with up to $18,000, even if the donations didn't come in, however.
That's not what I
Is
heard.
what-
Is that correct, Gary?
I'm
Don't
sorry.
we have to have the assumption, though, that if there were zero donations, which is very unlikely, grants or donations, that we would be obligated to come up with $18,000 from the general fund?
Yes.
What we would do, and we do that in other places as well. If the revenues come short, especially in a fund, special revenue fund like Parks and Rec, then we would either support it by reducing expenditures in other line items within that fund, manage the fund actively, or else we'd come back to council and say, we need additional funding through some other source, which might be legislative reserve or something like that.
Considering the hour, I don't want to beat this horse, but we'll see how it comes up in the budget process.
It would be done in the same way that we estimate revenues in every other line item.
Looks like Sue has a question, too.
I don't have a question. I think Gary was speaking JD and you were speaking PhD, which is where it kind of got crossed. But I think in admin committee, when we were discussing this, both Tim and Wayne wanted to put a cap on, because what had been currently happening is whoever wanted to come and apply for scholarships could come and apply for scholarships, and there was
No
there was a
end.
line item of like $3,000, and there was no end to it, even though the line item was, I
Three.
forgot, how many? Was it
Three.
3,000? Yeah, and then there was no end to it. So I think Tim and Wayne, and they can speak for themselves, but the consensus was that there would be a cap of this never-ending money with a couple of, like $250 per person and $500 per family. And then if there had to be more, they could come back to council, but at least it wouldn't be a never-ending drain that we didn't know about. And the admin committee also wanted the pool pass costs to be included in the 18,000 so that we would know where we were. Just so that if they came back and they needed more money, we'd know where we were and how it happened.
Parks and Rec? Or they meaning the applicants?
Parks and Rec.
Okay. Tom?
One question I had was, well,
Yeah, I don't know.
sit back. One question I had was in reference to the word year. Are we referring, I'm assuming we're referring to the word fiscal.
Fiscal year.
Year, not calendar year.
Correct.
So we're counting, the cap is counting October 1
Correct.
through September 30. Okay. We might want to make that, I don't know, maybe it's too complicated to make that clear to the public when it comes time to asking for money for scholarships. But I think that people are going to need to have that explained to them perhaps at some point if they close in on that personal cap, if this were to pass.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think through the.
Sure, and we do this for a living. I mean,
Sure.
we're pretty versed in how to communicate with them when things are coming up. And we would certainly, once this is approved, we would start notifying the public, right away, those people that come in and, apply for the scholarships. A lot of them are the same people, and notify them of the upcoming changes. And it is a year, so, well, not really quite, but gives them a lot of time to adjust in their thinking.
Are these questions that need to happen now, or do you want Dwight to finish his presentation?
He can finish.
I thought he was done.
I thought he was done.
I thought he was done.
Nope.
Please continue, Dwight. Yeah.
I'm ready.
I mean, it's not like we haven't seen this before. So that's,
Well, I do have some things that are a little bit different.
Okay, show us some different
Okay.
stuff.
And this is where the policy presently stands. With your recommendations from the administrative committee, these are the new recommendations. The ones in the dark blue are the new parts added to the other. And what we didn't talk about yet was the other recommendation number 5 was a maximum participation of $200 per individual and a limit of $500 per family. And let's see, I think that was it. We already talked about Walter's, the expense revenue covered through the budget process.
And if I may, and you can managerially do this?
Yes.
Okay.
Just to reiterate, not to muddy it up, but that there will be people that will do without. Okay, I thought it would be interesting to go back to the fiscal year 12 numbers and quickly run this new policy if it was adopted to see what would happen. And just using the net figures, the very top line, using the 2,000 or the $200 and $500 limits, it would have saved $4,600 and $4,640 on that year's budget. Using the net figures, it would have been $3,800 instead of $8,400 or $8,500. We had one family fall into the $500 max category, and that was the Albion family that we talked about several times before. And that was $1,300. 12 individuals fell into the $200 max category, and that would have been $3,300 in savings. And I'll get right to you in just a quick second. And this, in effect, was a total of 11 families affected. 9 of them were resident, 2 were non-resident, and most of this was out of the camps category of programs. And
Okay, Walter.
had a question.
Dwight, regarding the $200 max category, is that number within a few dollars of a number that would not have affected so many individuals? In other words, if you got a program that's $232 to sign up for, and now I'm wondering if I'm making sense.
Well, maybe I can make sense out of it here.
I got you.
Would a $250 limit be more inclusive? Would you lose less individuals, I guess is the way to put it.
Have we got a program that costs $230 or $240 that the 200 is just a little too low, and by raising it up just to maybe $250 or something, it would, no. Okay.
No, and what you've got here are camps where people would take advantage of the whole summer, and so in these particular categories or cases, it would be people that would participate part of the summer, and then the rest they would be done.
See, Madam Mayor,
Please. Yes.
I don't think that we're trying to take anything away from anybody. I mean, I think what we're really trying to do is account for it, and make sure that the public knows what they're spending their money on. And I don't think anybody up here wants to not take any kind of program away from any kids. We want to make sure everybody gets a chance to do everything. Excuse me. But we need to account for it, for not only for ourselves but for future councils. So unless somebody has something else that they want to discuss.
Well, I think Dwight's not finished with his presentation yet.
Well, just a real quick comment toward that is, like I've said before, you can't have this conversation without leaving somebody out.
Right.
If you went to just accountability, which other than where Walter was really wanting us to cover it through the budget, the entire thing
Right.
through the budget process, I mean, we've accounted for every cent.
Right.
I mean, and reported it. So, I mean, we know exactly where all this money goes. And let me just, before you make a motion, just make sure. Thought I had one more here. Just an example. I took where we're at so far in this fiscal year. And let's see, we have October, 5 months into this thing, 4.5 months.
Haven't even hit summer yet.
So, right. We've had one individual that used $189. Last year, they used 465, that particular individual. I just picked some examples here. And we had one individual that has used $126 so far, but they weren't part of the program last year. So 2 individuals in 4 months, and we haven't gotten to the big stuff yet.
Right.
And I would be happy to go through all the other stuff. All right.
Like I say, we've seen it all before.
I surrender.
I just,
Sue?
this recommendation from admin was a compromise, because Tim thought everyone should pay 50%, period, and nobody, is that right? Correct. And that no one should get free. And so that's when Wayne came up with a compromise recommendation between that and just having no max at all. So, go ahead, Wayne.
Well, in fact, Sue, we'd had that conversation, and it was interesting because I was actually approached by a lady that has, she's actually takes care of her grandson, and she said, I really appreciate the fact that you did not go to that 50%. She says, now I know how much I've got, how much we could use for scholarships. She says, I don't have any money even to meet 50%. She said, so thanks for
Right.
coming up with that idea.
Right. And I agreed that we should have a no cost to somebody.
Walter?
Dwight, with the 6 recommendations from the administrative committee, the staff effort to ask, can you pay something or pay half, still remains in effect? That's a question.
That is correct.
Okay.
And it works.
Okay. I think y'all do a great job.
Wayne?
Make a motion to approve the Administrative Committee fiscal year 14 youth scholarship recommendations, which consist of, you want me to list all 6 items, or just say including the 6 items listed?
You can
That's
say
good.
that. That's good.
And I'll second that.
Okay, Wayne's motion, Tom's second. Dan?
I'd like to amend that to delete item 4. Delete the cap.
I think that's pretty substantive. That would almost seem like a
That's a motion, you do not have a second.
I'm making an
amendment.
I'm making an amendment. and
Second.
Nobody seconded it.
not hearing a second. There you go. That's not going to go anywhere. Okay, other discussion?
I just wanted to say that regarding the cap, remember, as Wayne said, they can always come back. If it goes over the cap, they can come back to council for consideration, so that,
Mayor?
yes. Okay, I'm sorry.
The way that I understood the meeting was we would only come back to council if somebody made a donation, not if we were running out of money.
That's correct.
So at the end of the 18,000, if no more money's coming in, it just dies. The program's done for the year. So just so that everybody
understand.
understood.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That is correct.
All right, then, I misunderstood. Okay.
Walter?
I'll vote in favor of the motion. I am still not happy with the no residency restriction policy. I think that it should have some restriction, but I'll vote. I think we're making progress here to try to get something of a handle on a program that's been, by council direction, extremely loose. And staff didn't do it, we did it. But it's really expanded this past year, and I think that's what's gotten our attention, and we need to get a little bit of a grip here.
Yes, Tom?
Well, I just wanted to say that, we gave all sorts of messages to you and your staff and the Parks and Rec Commission last council meeting with one decision, and then after you left, another decision. And so I really appreciate you and your team taking all of our recommendations and meeting and coming up with, some good direction here that I think we can accept and move forward. So thank you for doing that.
That's what you get paid the big
My
bucks
pleasure,
for.
yeah.
Dan?
Yeah, and looking at the way some of the things work, I think we need to calculate everything that into it, but, getting the email from Dr. Burton, as far as, the pool doesn't cost any more if I let more people in, that's his whole charge, so, maybe that's something that we need to look at in the future, but, I'll go ahead and vote for it tonight, just so we can move on.
A lot of thoughtfulness has gone into this, Dwight, and I know you said from the outset that you would do whatever the council's wish was, and you've accomplished that in good form. So the motion is,
And honestly, if we can, I would like to know when we run out of money. I mean, because it's going to suck if it's May 15th, then maybe that's something that we need to know about.
Well, and we have always reported anomalies, and when we've started coming toward the end, we've come to the council.
And I'd say that if we hit $18,000 by May 15th, we did exactly the right thing.
Yeah.
so the motion is to approve the Administrative Committee fiscal year 14 youth scholarship recommendations and the 6 items listed here. Everybody know what they're voting on. We'll start the roll call vote with you, Dan.
Aye.
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 Okay, that motion carries. Thank you, Dwight. Appreciate your work on that.